what a biblical fast is not, right? And firstly, a biblical fast is not a medical fast. What I mean by that is that, as you know, when they tell you that you have to do some kind of surgery, or if you're doing some kind of blood test, they would normally tell you that you you can't eat or drink anything for a period of number of hours, normally 8 hours, 10 hours, maybe even 24 hours. Nothing by mouth. If you're doing some kind of surgery or taking some kind of blood test, they will tell you that they don't want you anything in your system. Abstain from eating anything. And that is indeed a medical fast. And of course, there are medical ramifications of fasting, and we may talk about that later on. But this is a medical fast, right? And nothing to do a biblical fast, right? But I wanted to, as I said, this word fasting is used as multifaceted. There are so many different people that use this word fasting. But I want us to recognize that as the people of God, when we talk about fasting, that we are not really talking about a medical fast. And then, of course, there are spiritualists who fast. And what I mean by that is that people who don't necessarily believe in God, but they call themselves spiritual. And they would abstain from fasting. They would abstain from food. And they would say that they are doing that to be more centered or to become more in line with their spirits. It is not necessarily a fast from God, or biblical fast. This is someone who is highly subjective and spiritual and looking for some form of ecstatic or joyful adoration or explanation. But that is, again, not a biblical fast. And then, of course, there's a political fast. And if you may know what that means, we see this kind of fast, for example, when those war-torn countries, like if you think about India, Mahatma Gandhi, when he would have sat in front of the tanks before he led India and a great portion of Hindus on a hunger strike. So it's not a biblical fast, but a political fast. We have had our own share of political fast, even in Trinidad and Tobago. We had Dr. Wayne Crichlow Singh. During the highway, the building of the highway in Trinidad and Tobago in about 2014, he would have fasted, or gone on a fast, a hunger strike for a period of, I believe it was 41 days. And he would have fasted on more than one occasion, right? He fasted even to the point that some thought that he would have died, because he really lost a lot of weight, and he really was really thin. When you look at when he had done that fast for that 41 period, which was done in 2014. But again, this is not a biblical fast, but he was really a political fast, because he was fasting because he wanted them to stop the building of the highway, because he was saying that it was encroaching on the mangroves, so it would affect the ecosystem and the animal life there, so that he wanted them really to find another way in getting the highway built a way around it, right? And again, he engaged in fasting to try to help sway the authorities to really stop the building of the highway, right? And as I said, there's also hunger strikes. You would see, we even had it in Trinidad, and you see it in other places as well. When prisoners find that the condition is not good in the prison, they would engage in a hunger strike. They will not eat for a number of days. They're saying that they want their condition or their terms to get better, and they would engage in this hunger strike for a period of days, right? So again, it's not a biblical fast, but a fast at a period of time that they are fasting so that they can serve a particular purpose, right? So even Muslims, they participate during the month of Ramadan. They also go through their season of fasting as well. We have the Roman Catholics. They go through a period of fasting during the Lenten period where they give up some items, where one thing that they give up for the Lenten season. Again, they say that they are also engaging in some form of fasting as well. And when you look at fasting, we look at that, but we see that is really not fasting. So when we look at this fasting, we must be thinking that there's something really different when you look at fasting from a biblical point of view compared to a medical fast or a political fast or a hunger strike, or even those spiritualists who also engage in fasting. When you read in the Bible about fasting, although there is some similarity, it is not the same thing as those other types of fasts that I've mentioned here. When we look at the word fasting, in the Hebrew, it comes from a word called tsum, T-S-U-M, and it means to cover the mouth or to abstain from food. Right? It comes from this word, as I said, it's called tsum, and it means really to cover over the mouth, to fast, or to abstain from food, right? And you see all the different meanings there and how it is used, right? So just know the word is called tsum, and as I said, it means to cover the mouth or to abstain from food. And that's the Hebrew, right? In the Greek or the New Testament, there's also a word, and it's called nesteo, and it also means to not eat on a voluntary basis for spiritual purposes. To abstain from food, he says religiously. You see that, okay? So those are the two words that you'll see used for fasting in the Hebrew, tsum, and in the Greek, nesiteo. Right? I hope I pronounced it correctly. Right? And basically, as I said, it means really to tsum, to cover the mouth, abstain from food, and in the New Testament, the Greek, it means to not eat on a voluntary basis for spiritual purposes. Okay?
Brother Ian.
Yes, but
yes. So what I am getting is that in general, everyone who fasts abstain from food. But the purpose of which one fasts, in the biblical sense, now centers around God.
Correct. There's a difference. Correct. So they do it correct, and that's the difference when we look at it. Because everybody fast. The political person fasting, the spiritualist fast, but all of them are really fasting for a different purpose.
A different purpose, a different reason.
Yes.
So so us understanding what are some of the biblical reasons for fasting,
yes,
should help us and should encourage us to fast.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes. But this is a question I was asked last week. It's I'm just answering that as well, because some people ask, these are the religious people, are they really fasting? And yes, they're fasting, but they're not doing it according to the biblical definition of what fasting is. Right? And we'll hopefully try to cover that before we close even today. Right?
Okay, one other thing before you jump
Sure.
on.
Sure.
To my understanding, sometimes we talk about biblical or scriptural and things like that. But the practices and the words that the Bible used, like how we use Hebrew and Greek,
Yes.
they were common things from society. So it's not to say that fasting is a biblical thing. Fasting is a practice that was done by the people of God and by the people in their own dispensation. Let me put it that way.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And so we could draw from both sides, because the benefits of fasting now would still stand out from both sides. There is a benefit.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I gave the example even of our political fast.
Correct.
Crichlow Singh. I mean, he lost tremendous weight through that fast.
That's right.
And actually, there are a lot of health benefits as well. If you look, I mean, we're looking at biblically, but there are a lot of health benefits as well, because they're saying that when I looked at the reasons, some of the reasons for fasting, it can heal different ailments in the body. So there's a lot of medical reasons why it can be something wonderful for us, not only from a spiritual point of view, but also health-wise as well. They're saying that fasting is also good because it can also help the body to heal if you have different ailments as well. Fasting can also be used to help heal those different ailments as well. Yeah. It's interesting as well. You can also do some research as well on that as well. I just don't take my word for it. Okay. So you want to look at some passages, and then from those, what we're going to do is pull out the different type of fast that we see that the Bible talks about here. And you can take note of these scriptures, because these will be the basis or the foundation that we would use to go into a little more depth when we talk about fasting and the types of fast that we see mentioned in the scriptures. The first one is the book of Psalms, chapter 35, verse number 12 and verse number 13. Psalms chapter 35, verse number 12 and verse number 13. It says, "They rewarded me evil for good to the spoiling of my soul." He says, "But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled my soul with fasting, and my prayer returned into mine own bosom." Right, so you can take note of these scriptures, Psalms 35, verse number 12, and verse number 13. And as you'll see in this particular text, he talks about, I humble, he says, my soul with fasting. Right? And one of the things that we said last week is that when we fasting, you will see that we talk about this term, humbling my soul, right? And it's synonymous with fasting, because that's how you humble your soul, fasting, right? Another text I wanted to look at is the book of Exodus, chapter number 34, verse number 27 and verse number 28. Exodus, chapter number 34, look at verse number 27 and verse number 28. And that says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Write down these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel." And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. So notice again that he didn't eat, he says, or drink for 40 days and for 40 nights. Right? Exodus 34, verse number 27 and verse number 28.
Yeah, brother.
Yes, brother, yeah.
Yeah, as we look in, sometimes, as we read these things and we meditate on these things, we want to get the essence. And so, here it is that Moses is in the presence of God. And to me, what I'm getting from it, being in God's presence means that you could do without food. What I am getting from this here, I'm getting from this here.
Yes.
He was up on the mountain, but he was in the presence of God.
Yes.
And sometimes when you are sometimes doing something that you love, you just forget about food.
Yeah.
Or when you're doing something, here it is that, Moses is in the presence of God. He's communing with God. He's talking to God. God has given him instructions and commands. And it's as though he lost the appetite.
Yeah. I mean, when
deep,
you're doing something you love, I believe everybody could relate to that. When you're doing something you love, time really don't matter. You just doing something.
Sometimes you just lose that and then somebody say, eat. You say, oh gosh, I was so consumed with this thing.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm getting from this passage with Moses when he was up on the mount.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good observation. Good idea. Another one I want us to look at as well. Matthew chapter number 4, verse number 1 and verse number 2. And this is Jesus. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. Right? There's a similar parallel in the book of Luke, chapter number 4. I believe with the first 3 verses as well, dealing with this as well is similarly. The same account is told there in the book of Luke, chapter number 4 as well. But I want us to note again that he fasted there for 40 days and 40 nights. And notice that afterwards he was hungry. The same thing, Brother Leon, in the presence of God, 40 days and 40 nights, and then after that, he was hungry. Okay? So said Luke chapter 4, 1 and 3, the same account as well. Jesus being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil, and in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he afterward hungered. And the devil said unto him, if thou be the Son of God, command the stone that it be made bread. Right? Another.
We notice that this context is when he was baptized.
Yes,
the Spirit descended upon him.
Yes.
And he was led by the Spirit to be tempted. In other words, the Spirit was leading him and prepared him for some things that he was going to have to endure.
Yeah.
And if we were to try to apply it to ourselves at times, because you said that the goal is that we should do this more and be conscious of the benefits for it. And at times we may be led by the Spirit to go into a fast. Something you may have a battle, whatever battle you may be going through, and you may realize that this I need to fast.
Yes.
I need to, because you say prayer and fasting go together.
Yes.
All right. And the idea of being led, being convinced that whatever you're going through is not going to you're not going to win it naturally you need some help,
Yes.
and so you may want to fast for a couple of days. Who know how long?
Yeah.
And you just feel that the Spirit leaded into this, and you do it. So that's just the point here, that being led by the Spirit, being
Yeah.
encouraged to do this thing, because I mean he really fought some battles,
Yeah. Yeah.
hunger and temptation and a couple of things, but he
Yeah.
was prepared because the Spirit was up with him. That's just my comment there.
And that's one of the benefits of fasting as well too. It helps you to really be more focused as well too. And we'll probably look at that as well too, as when you look at the benefits of what fasting can do for us as well. Yeah. Right, so we looked at, as I said, the same account, Matthew 4, Luke 4, with Jesus fasting 40 days and 40 nights. Another one as well we could look at is the book of Daniel. This is an interesting one. Daniel chapter number 10, from verse number 1 to verse number 3. It says that in the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belshazzar. And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. And he understood the thing and had understanding of the vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth. Neither did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. And we talk about this a little bit long. We talk about this a little, go into it a little bit more. But again, this is again a fast here that Daniel would have done here for 3 full weeks. He says he ate no pleasant bread, neither did flesh, he says, nor wine into his mouth. And he didn't anoint himself at all till those 3 whole weeks were fulfilled.
And he gave the reasons because he understand the vision.
Yes, he understood it. Yes,
It was something troubling either to him or to his people, the nation of Israel.
yes, yeah,
And it disturbed him so much, or it troubled him so much, that he went into a fast.
yeah, yeah. There is a spirit of movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Another interesting one as well is the book of Jonah, chapter number 3 as well. Jonah, chapter number 3, from verse number 5 down to verse number 7. In this passage here in Jonah, chapter number 3, it says from verse 5, so the people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him, and covered him, he says, with sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water. Right? So again, a fast. Right? So he proclaimed a fast. Don't eat and don't drink anything. Another example.
Background, brother, to get some background context there. This is one of those things that reluctant preaching was done. You know, this is so amazing when you get into the context. Jonah stood out 3 days journey out of the city and murmur in 3 days, Nineveh will be destroyed. He didn't want the people to even to get the message. A passerby heard him murmuring, in 3 days Nineveh is going to be destroyed. He went and told the king, a man outside, he seemed to be a prophet. And he's saying in 3 days Nineveh is going to be destroyed. So they believe the king believed the passerby and said, maybe he's really a prophet. And if he's saying what he's saying is true, then we all are doomed.
Okay.
You see how serious that now. And the king decided, if he is a prophet and he's proclaiming doom upon us, let me go to God. Let me go to God in repentance through fasting and prayer. So that is a real powerful context. So we take it in its context.
Yes.
That as they say, the political leader recognized danger.
Yeah.
Not from man, but from God. And he executed a decree. Let everybody do something about it. So I just wanted to put in the context there.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah probably preached one of the shortest message of conversion for a whole nation to repent. And even when they threw him out of the ship, the people recognized Jonah's God as the true God, because
That's right.
when he tell them throw him into the water, they say, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And they're trying to throw out everything, and they realize why they even ask for forgiveness before they throw him out. When they
That's right.
saw the water became calm, they worship that God. They say, wait, but this man had to be worshiping, had to be the true God. His God has to be. Yeah.
That's right.
So Jonah was really a powerful prophet. And he really didn't speak much. And as I said, the hurtful thing is he didn't want this nation to be saved. He tried to avoid preaching the message to this nation. And by the one thing that they heard, the whole nation was converted.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
indeed
right.
Powerful. Yeah. So another passage besides Jonah chapter number 3, we can also look at Matthew chapter number 6, 16 to 18. That says that, moreover, when you fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret, he says, shall reward thee openly. I just wanted, we're talking about this same sackcloth, and I just wanted to have an idea of what this sackcloth material looks like. This is what the sackcloth looks like. It's a kind of itchy material when it gets wet. But this is really what the sackcloth looks like. Okay. There are a couple other passages as well in the book of Leviticus, chapter number 16, verse number 29 to verse number 31. Leviticus chapter number 16, verse 29 to verse number 31. And that says, and this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, he says, ye shall afflict your souls and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourneth among you. For on that day shall the priest make an atonement for you, to cleanse you, that ye may be clean from all of your sins before the Lord. It shall be a Sabbath of rest unto you. He says, and ye shall again afflict your souls by a statute forever. Right? You see this, well, the King James Version uses the word afflict your souls, but some translations you'll see as well, humble your souls as well. The NASB uses the term humble your soul, right?
And that is one of the meaning of fasting. When you deny, you afflict your soul by denying it.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You denying the flesh.
Yes. Correct. Yes. Right. And
now, while we're on this topic, I think in your introduction, you cover all of these things. But you say, I love the introduction. We love food and we love to eat.
Yes.
So the whole idea of not eating for any long period of time is disturbing to us. It's troubling to us. But if we are willing to deny ourselves food for God, or sometimes for our own self, it should say something.
It's interesting that when after he fasted 40 days, the devil told him, well, why don't you turn this stone into bread? Because he again tempted him with food. Because we see, I mean, in my introduction, as I said last week, people eat food for so many different reasons.
That's right.
Yeah, we've gotten accustomed to food. Food is a part of our daily living. We've gotten so accustomed to food. Somebody says that we live to eat. So, yeah, I mean, so we've gotten so accustomed to food that talking about abstaining from food might hurt some people's feeling, because
yes, that's right.
Talk about that, abstaining from food. Okay. And also the book of Leviticus, chapter number 23, 27 to verse number 32. Leviticus chapter number 23, 27 to 32. It says, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you. And again, you'll see this term, you shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. You shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls again in the 9th day of the month, at even, from evening unto evening, shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So all these different passages, as I said, take note of them, because these will really be our basis for going on or talking more, or the foundation basis that we will use talk about fasting and the types of fasting that we see. Right? What does really humbling my soul mean? In the book of Psalms 35, the first one that we looked at, verse 13, it says, but as for me, when they were sick, he says, my clothing, he says, was sackcloth. He says, I humbled my soul with fasting. He says, and my prayer returned into mine own bosom. One of these primary things when you think about fasting then is that he says that we are really humbling ourselves through the act of fasting. We are humbling ourselves through the act of fasting so that we can get God's attention. So from these various passages here, we will see that there are some we had different types of fasting that are mentioned in these passages that we looked at. Right? And I just want to cover them here, hopefully before we close today. We have 5 more minutes. The first one we see here is fasting from evening to evening. And that was mentioned in the on the last verse, Leviticus 23, verse number 27 to verse number 32, right? The first type of fasting is from evening to evening. And the reason that you hear even to evening is because in the Hebrew world, the Hebrew day began in the evening and it concluded in the evening. So that type of fast means that they would literally only eat in the beginning and the conclusion of the day. And remember, their day began in the evening and ended in the evening. So nothing would be consumed between that time, right? And that's why we have the fasting from evening to evening, right? So in the Hebrew world, their fast, their day began in the evening and ended in the evening. Of course, and our world today is not the same, right? Our day begins in the from 12 o'clock, 1 second after 12. Really, our day begins, and we end at midnight, right? That's how our day begins. So normally, when we fast, we would normally fast like from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 in the evening, because really that's evening to evening for us, right? But the Hebrew people, it was different. Their evening really, or their day really began in the evening and ended the next evening, right? So that's why you will see in that text in Leviticus chapter 23 mentions from evening to evening, right? But for our times it's different because our day begins at a different time than theirs, right? The only other one I'll do today, because our time will be gone, is the other one called a complete or absolute or total fast. Right? The second type of fast mentioned is a complete, absolute, or total fast. What I mean by that is that you eat nothing and drink nothing. Right? So during the fast, you eat nothing and drink nothing. Right? And that's why I say complete or absolute or total fast. Now, I have here, and there are some examples here, 2 examples in particular. We saw in the book of Exodus chapter 34, verse 27 and verse number 28. We saw here where Moses went to receive the tabernacle, and he would have fasted 40 days and 40 nights, eating nothing or drinking nothing at all, right? And some would say that this is a miraculous fast, and we will probably look into it a little bit more next week because our time will run out for today. Well, why I say miraculous is because when you do your research, the scientists say that the human body can go no more than, let's say, probably about 10 days eating or drinking nothing at all. We can't go beyond that, right? Because what happens is that toxins build up in the body, and those toxins will kill you, right? So to eat nothing and drink nothing completely for more than, and I'll show you some slides next week about that. But normally they will say you won't last more than 10 to 12 days. You will die because those toxins will heap up in the body, and those toxins will kill you, right? So that's why it is said that in Exodus 34, 27 and 28, that this has to be a miraculous fast, because the Bible mentioned that he didn't eat anything at all or didn't drink anything at all. And he was able to go, come back from the mountain, and after receiving those instructions from God, and was able to go on like normal, right? As I said, the human body is not designed to go without food and water for longer than 7 days or so. Medically, toxic-wise, the toxin in the body will kill you without food. But drinking water alone, you can survive a couple of months well on record. I saw something about 90-something days that that's at least at how long the person had done it, right? No food, just water alone. But without water or without food, only a few days, because that will lead for surely certain death, right? And that's why I say that this fast here that was mentioned in Exodus 34 really has to be a miraculous kind of fast. And in the two examples we looked at as well in the book of Jonah 3, 5 to 7, we saw here that the people of Nineveh, it says the people of Nineveh believed God. I go back to that text in Jonah chapter number 3. But it's particular about this one here, right? The people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even unto the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne, and he laid his robe from him and covered him with sackcloth and sat in ashes. He says, and it caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water. So no eating, no drinking, absolutely. And not only man, but he said beasts, flock, everything. So everybody was subject to that fast. And that is unique. That everybody had animals and all, they faced the fast as well. Nothing, and that fast went on for 3 days, right? So no eating, no drinking, and they were able to do that fast for 3 days. As I said, when you look at the biblical examples, you will see that those who did that complete or absolute fast only did it in the scriptures for 3 days. As I said, scientists will approve from their research saying that really the human body can't do without eating or drinking completely. You wouldn't last more than 7 to 10 days because the toxins will indeed kill you in the body, right? The last example I want to look at before we the book of 1 Kings, chapter number 19 and verse number 8. 1 Kings, chapter number 19 and verse number 8. Right? That's another example as well of the second one, which is the absolute or total fasting. In 1 Kings, chapter number 19 and in verse number 8. Right? The Bible says here, 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse number 8, it says, and he arose and did.
You have it on the screen?
No, I don't have that one. And I don't have that.
You're reading it?
Yeah, reading that one. And he arose and did eat and drink and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. Right? And that was Elijah. Right? And that's in 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse number 8. Right? So he arose and did eat and drink, and then it says, went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. Right? You can also look at the book of Esther, chapter number 4 as well, 1 to 3, and verse number 16. I'll read that one. That one is on the screen. It says that when Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, went into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and a bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whatsoever the king's commandment and his decree came, about among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. And verse 16 says, go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, neither eat nor drink, 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. Right? So this is the second type of fast, a complete or absolute fast. no eating, no drinking at all. And as I said before, according to research, the human body can't, you see here mentioned in this Esther that they did it for 3 days. Jonah as well, they did it for 3 days as well in Nineveh, right? Because as I said, from research, they said that the human body can't survive more longer than between 7 to 10 days without eating or drinking, absolutely. The toxins in the body will indeed kill you, right? So those mentioned in the Bible so far, we saw 3 days for absolute fasting. I didn't see anything beyond that. And the 40 days that was mentioned, as I said, for Moses, seemed to be miraculous fast because it mentioned that he didn't eat or drink at all, and he was in the presence of God. Okay. So we'll take it there. Any questions on what we would have looked at there so far tonight?
Nope. I just want to make a comment before the questions
Sure.
and then come.
Sure.
And here's where you need to take it to